Captain Adrian Voss stood before the Galactic Council, bloodied but unbowed. The chamber, once a place of debate and diplomacy, was now eerily silent. Thousands of alien delegates sat frozen in their seats, their varied features twisted in shock, horror, or something worse, fear. Because the human had just said something no species in this galaxy had ever dared to say before. Congratulations. You just declared war on humanity. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. From his elevated throne, Supreme Arbiter Exathuan of the Vraxis Dominion leaned forward, his insectoid mandibles clicking in disbelief. You dare? Adrian wiped blood from his split lip, his uniform scorched and torn from the battle that had brought him here. He was the only survivor of the massacre. And he wasn't here to beg for peace. He was here to end this war before it began. The Butcher of Valis IV. The Valis IV massacre was supposed to be a warning. The Vraxis Dominion had wiped out the human colony as an example, a show of force to intimidate humanity into submission. 50,000 dead. Men, women, children. But humanity didn't submit. Because the Vraxis had made one fatal mistake. They had left a survivor. Adrian Voss had been an officer stationed on Valis IV. He had watched his world burn. He had seen the Vraxis warriors butcher civilians, laughing in their own shrieking language. And he had crawled through the ashes, swearing vengeance. He hadn't come to the council to negotiate. He had come to deliver a message. And now every species in the galaxy was about to learn what it meant to make an enemy of humanity. The council's reaction. A nervous silence filled the chamber. Some species, like the frail, calculating Seraphine, shifted uneasily in their seats. The merchant clans of the Red Hari exchanged wary glances, already calculating the potential profit and loss of this impending war. Only the Vraxis remained unmoved. Exathuan finally spoke, his voice dripping with amusement. You believe your species can stand against us? Adrian chuckled. A low, dangerous sound. You don't get it, do you? He said, shaking his head. You're not fighting one nation. You're not fighting a single fleet. You're fighting humanity. His gaze swept across the assembly, locking eyes with every species that had turned a blind eye to Valis IV. You think this is about me? About revenge? He took a step forward, voice turning to iron. No. This is about what happens next. He threw a data drive onto the floor. It activated instantly, projecting a live video feed into the air. And across the galaxy, Earth responded. Humanity's answer. The council chamber exploded into chaos. The video showed dozens of human war fleets mobilizing, moving into battle formations. The Lunar Defense Armada, the Terran Siege Corps, the Martian Black Ops Division, they were all preparing for war. Adrian crossed his arms. You thought humanity was weak. The screen changed. Now it showed entire planets burning, but not human worlds. Vraxis colonies. Adrian's voice was calm, almost conversational. You wanted to teach us fear? Consider the lesson learned. Exathuan rose from his throne, mandibles flaring. You cannot win this war. Adrian grinned. We're not here to win. His voice dropped to a whisper. We're here to make sure you lose. And with that, the war began. The Vraxis Dominion had spent centuries at the top. They had crushed every challenger, every rebellion, every lesser species that had dared to rise against them. They were the apex predators of the galaxy. But now they were facing something they had never encountered before. A species that refused to kneel. A species that, instead of retreating, advanced. The first strike. The moment Adrian Voss left the Galactic Council chamber, the war had already begun. Vraxis fleets moved to strike first, to end the conflict before it could spread. They jumped into human-controlled space, their warships descending on Outpost Jericho, one of humanity's largest orbital defense stations. They expected a massacre. Another Valis IV. Instead they found hell. The moment the Vraxis ships appeared in system, the trap was sprung. A full Terran Navy battle group uncloaked, warships emerging from the darkness like vengeful gods. The Vraxis didn't even have time to react. Railguns thundered. Kinetic lances shattered their shields. Orbital strike pods rained from above, deploying human marines directly into the heart of their command ships. Within 37 minutes, the Vraxis fleet was eradicated. Humanity hadn't just won the battle. They had sent a message. We are coming for you. The Vraxis mistake. Enraged, Supreme Arbiter Exathuan ordered a full-scale assault. He gathered every fleet at his disposal, over 1,000 warships. More firepower than had ever been assembled in the history of their empire. And he sent them straight to Earth. The council watched in stunned silence. The Seraphine, the Redhari, the Krill, every species knew what was coming. The Vraxis would break humanity just as they had broken so many others. But then the unthinkable happened. Humanity didn't defend Earth. Instead, they launched a counter-invasion. While the Vraxis fleets were moving towards Sol, humanity was already in their territory, burning their homeworlds. Terror in the capital. The first reports arrived in the Galactic Council 3 days later. At first, no one believed them. The Vraxis homeworld, Vraxilin Prime, was under attack. It was impossible. No species had ever dared to take the fight directly to the Dominion. But humanity didn't care about precedent. They only cared about finishing what the Vraxis started. Live footage from Vraxilin Prime showed human shock troopers in exosuits dropping into the capital city, guns blazing. They moved with precision, ruthlessness, cutting through the Vraxis warriors who had never before known fear. Supreme Arbiter Exathuan watched the feed in horror. Because in the center of the chaos, leading the charge was Adrian Voss. The human had done more than survive Valis 4. He had come back to end an empire. And the galaxy would never be the same. The Vraxis Dominion had ruled for thousands of years. They had crushed countless civilizations, turned entire species into slaves or cinders. But now their worlds were burning. ####a new kind of war. Vraxilin Prime had never seen invasion. Its defenses were impenetrable, its fleets unstoppable, until they met humanity. Vraxis generals had expected the usual war tactics: planetary bombardments, overwhelming fleet engagements, a prolonged campaign. Instead, humanity did something insane. They attacked from within. Days before the invasion, human infiltration units had already slipped into Vraxilin Prime cities. Cloak drop pods, AI-guided stealth crafts, operatives surgically enhanced to blend in among the population. And when the attack began, the real damage didn't come from above. It came from within. Cyber warfare viruses disabled planetary defenses. Explosions crippled military command centers. And when the Terran assault ships finally arrived in orbit, the Vraxis army was already paralyzed. The unstoppable Dominion wasn't just being beaten. It was being outplayed. Adrian's gambit. Adrian Voss led the charge through the capital. The human strike teams moved like ghosts, adaptive combat AI, precision railguns, exosuits stronger than any Vraxis warrior. Exathuan's personal guard fell in minutes. The Supreme Arbiter himself barely escaped, retreating deep into the War Command bunker beneath the High Citadel. But Adrian wasn't here just to kill him. No, he had something worse in mind. He opened a secure broadcast to the entire galaxy. Live feeds from the battlefield flooded every screen in the Galactic Council chamber. Every alien species saw the truth. The invincible Vraxis Dominion was crumbling. And the humans were in control. Adrian stood in the ruins of the Supreme Citadel, bloodied but victorious, and looked straight into the camera. This war ends on our terms? The Council's fear. The other species in the galaxy had never feared the Vraxis. They had resented them, yes. Had suffered under their rule. But fear? Fear was what they now felt toward humanity. Because the humans weren't just winning. They were erasing their enemies. No species had ever dared to fight like this. The Krill ambassadors whispered among themselves. Were they next? The Redhari merchant clans calculated what a human-dominated galaxy would mean. And the Seraphine High Elders, always neutral, always calculating, spoke only 2 words. They ascend. #### the endgame. Exathuan, hiding in his bunker, issued one last command. If the Vraxis Dominion was to fall, then humanity would burn with it. He activated the Doomsday Fleet, a hidden armada of self-replicating warships, AI-driven, bound to one order only: erase Earth. He laughed even as Adrian and his soldiers breached the bunker doors. Your people will die with us, he snarled. Adrian didn't blink. He simply held up a device and pressed a button. The screens in the bunker flickered, showing the Doomsday Fleet exploding one by one. Exathuan's mandibles clicked in shock. Impossible? Adrian smiled. We planned for that. The last Supreme Arbiter of the Vraxis Dominion fell to his knees. The war was over. And humanity stood victorious. The Vraxis Dominion had fallen. Its Supreme Arbiter, Exathuan, lay dead in the ruins of his own war bunker. The once mighty Vraxis fleets? Scattered wreckage drifting in the void. And their worlds, conquered. Humanity had done what no species in the galaxy had ever dared. They didn't just defeat the Dominion. They ended it. But now came the real question. What happens when the galaxy's deadliest species wins? The shockwave. Across the Galactic Council, panic spread like wildfire. The Krill? Fortifying their homeworlds. The Red Hari merchant clans? Scrambling to realign their alliances. The once arrogant Seraphim? Watching silently, waiting, calculating. Because now, for the first time, humanity was in charge. And no one knew what that meant. Would they become the new conquerors? Or would they do something even more terrifying? Would they change the game entirely? The final decision. Adrian Voss stood before the Galactic Council one last time. But this time he wasn't bloodied and beaten. This time he was the one in control. He stared down the assembled alien leaders, the same ones who had laughed at humanity just weeks before. Now they watched him in silence. Waiting. Dreading. And then Adrian spoke. "We're not here to rule." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Seraphine High Elders narrowed their luminous eyes. "Then what do you want?" Adrian leaned forward. "We want a galaxy where no species fears another." Silence. Adrian let the words settle before he continued. "The Dominion is gone. Its empire is shattered. That means something new has to take its place." He turned to face each species directly. "So here's the deal. Humanity won this war, but we're not your new overlords. We're your equal. The age of empires is over." His voice hardened. "We are forming the Terran Accord. A new alliance. Built on strength, not oppression. On unity, not fear." He let his words hang in the air. "Join us. Or don't. But understand this, humanity will never kneel." The galaxy's answer. For a long moment, the council chamber was silent. Then one by one they stood. The Krill. The Red Hari. The Seraphim. Even the lesser Vraxis remnants, now leaderless and broken. They pledged allegiance to the Terran Accord. Because if one thing had been made clear, it was this. Humanity was here to stay. And the galaxy? Would never be the same again. Epilogue, the legend of humanity. In the years to come, historians would argue about what had happened. Some would call it the Great Revolution. Others, the fall of tyranny. But one name would be remembered across every world, in every tongue, for generations. The day humanity ascended. And when the last star of the Dominion faded into history, one undeniable truth remained. They had declared war on the galaxy's deadliest species. And they had lost. Forever. The end. Rocket.